All right, everybody, what is going on? Good afternoon on this Monday, and it's time to start talking about the next draft. That's right, the 2027 NFL draft. It's kind of too early to really start talking about it in detail, but we can talk about it broadly. And after the dust is cleared on the 2026 draft, I do want to briefly take a look at what the Seahawks are looking at next year, because this is an important part of the equation here, and it needs to be considered when you're talking about this class and what we're likely to get out of it and the needs that this team is going to have in the imminent future here, because this draft was not very good for a few different reasons. The picks we had, the nature of the draft itself, the position of our picks, it was just kind of a rough situation. Not so next year. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, more on them a little bit later. But Chris Clough of Seahawk Talk here has the 2027 projected picks for the Seattle Seahawks. You've got a first, a second, and a third. So like this year, we're going to have our first, second, and third round pick as of right now. Both those picks are there. Now, that is where things start to get interesting. So you've got those. We gave up our fourth round pick to Cleveland to get Bo Stevens, but we are getting a fourth round pick back because of the compensatory game for Mafe. And if the Seahawks are good this year, if they make another deep playoff run and they have a late pick, the comp pick they get for Boye Mafe is going to be in a very similar spot, just a few picks behind where their native fourth rounder would have been. So the Mafe compensation allows them to still have a pick in that range. And then you have 4 fifth-round picks because you have your native fifth. Then you're also getting a fifth, probably. We don't know this for 100% sure yet, I will admit that, but it's almost certainly the case. Ken Walker, Kobe Bryant, and Reek Woolen. And by the way, if you go to Over the Cap, they do confirm this. They project Boye Mafe's a fourth, Ken Walker's a fifth, Kobe Bryant's a fifth, Woolen's a fifth. And nobody we signed, and by the way, the one reason why I'm doing this video now is because today is the deadline for comp picks to be affected by free agent signings. So at this point, if the Seahawks sign anybody, it will not affect comp picks at all. So at this point, these picks are locked in. Even I think if we sign somebody today, they're locked in. But even if I'm wrong about that, we can just wait until tomorrow. Either today is the deadline or this morning was the deadline. So 4, 5, 5, 5. And in this draft class, believe me, those picks will matter a lot. In a draft class like the one we just had, yeah, I wouldn't be that excited about having a bunch of fifth-round picks because the fifth round was weak this year because the whole class was weak. Next year, I don't think that will be the case. We won't know for sure until we get there, but I think next year's class is going to be much deeper, and you're going to be able to get appealing prospects in that fifth round. So you're doing pretty darn well here. And then you have your native sixth rounder, and you have 2 seventh rounders because you have your native seventh. You also have Atlanta's seventh that you got when you traded them Michael Jarrell in, I think it was 2025. Yeah. So it's looking very good here. And by the way, there's a way the Seahawks can get another very appealing pick. And if they have a good season this year, I believe that this will happen. But more on that after the break. If you like sports, the best way to make them better and more exciting is using Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks, all you got to do is pick more or less on your favorite players' projections and build lineups with a few taps. It's the daily fantasy stuff, but it's made super easy over there. Whatever sport you're into, give it a shot. And right now, Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All you have to do is use promo code HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far. It makes this daily fantasy thing very easy, and it makes watching the games way more exciting. Be sure to check out the social feeds feature so you can share lineups with your friends and tail partners or even fade their picks. Right now, Prize Picks is offering odds on the NFL draft. You have who's going to go where, what each team is going to do, how many of each position is going to go in each round, and so on and so on. Get on over to Prize Picks. Take advantage of that. So, download Prize Picks today, America's #1 sports app, and remember to use the promo code HMA. And remember, always gamble responsibly. I mentioned this in a previous video, but it bears repeating because it is very significant. If Aiden Byrd is hired as a head coach in 2027 next offseason, then the Seahawks get 2 compensatory third-round picks, including one in the 2027 class. The other would be in 2028. So think about it. The Seahawks had a pretty good defense in 2024, which was McDonald and Dirty's, I think it's Dirty's, first year. And then the second year, they had the #1 defense in the league and won the Super Bowl. And there was a little bit of head coaching buzz around Dirty after last season. So if the Seahawks have an elite defense again this year, which they almost certainly will, and they have another very good season, which, again, very likely, Aiden Dirty is probably going to get an opportunity to be a head coach. To me, the only thing that could really get in his way would be if there just aren't enough openings. I don't think it'll be anything to do with him. I think people will perceive him as being one of the big hot names in coaching, and there will be a desire to get a piece of what Mike McDonald has, and you do that by getting his assistants. Aiden Dirty also was, by the way, fairly accomplished before he got to Seattle. He was with Dallas under Dan Quinn, and Dan Quinn's defenses were good for the years he was there in Dallas. So there is a little bit of a track record of success here. And by the way, remember, the Seahawks added the Ravens guy, Weaver, to their coaching staff this offseason. He is probably the heir apparent to the defensive coordinator spot, so we already have a contingency plan there. I know some people will say, well, if we lose Aiden Dirty to another team, then we lose Aiden Dirty, and that's too bad because he's clearly doing well, and that's true, but we already have his replacement, or likely replacement, in the house with Weaver. So we're planning for this, and it's a pretty good plan in my mind. It's kind of the stuff you want to be doing. So yeah, the 2027 draft, which looks like a good draft, very juicy right now. Your first, your second, your third. You could be adding another third very easily. Your fourth, or not your fourth, but a fourth that is very similar to the fourth you're going to have probably. 4 fifths, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. That is probably what we got. And what's probably going to happen here, number one, I do think the Seahawks are going to trade some of these picks between now and the draft, because they're probably going to make another deadline deal like they did last year for Shaheed. They're going to need something. Maybe they're going to need another edge rusher. Maybe they're going to need a cornerback if there are injuries. Maybe they'll need a safety if there are injuries. They may need something. So I look for them to make some kind of a trade, because right now they have 11 picks. They could get 12. That's probably too many, because when you have too many picks, you're getting into a situation where you know you're making picks on players that have no real shot at making the team. So you'd rather package those picks, move up, get better players, and have a higher percentage of your class actually make the squad. So I don't think we're going to end up with this many picks, but the picks we actually make will be good. Like, we could package a couple of fifths and a seventh maybe to move up to the late fourth. You could package a bunch of your fifths to move up to the early fourth maybe. I don't know. It depends on what happens when we get there. Point I'm making is that one way or the other, the Seahawks are going to be in a good spot. Maybe they end up giving a big pick away at some point over the next year, so they can acquire a trade deadline guy. But this is looking juicy to me. All right, that's where things are sitting right now for the Seahawks in 2027. Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys soon. Go Hawks. And that will do it for our look to 2027 until at least one more video.